Coming up on the 2014 FIFA World Cup magazine, we celebrate the sound of Bossa Nova. We head to Rio and the Tijuca National Park, the world's largest urban rainforest. And we meet Falcao, the man who just can't stop scoring in the fast and furious world of futsal. But we begin in Recife, in the northeast of Brazil, where in March, representatives of the game's governing body and the local organising committee for the 2014 FIFA World Cup began their second host city tour of 2013. FIFA's Secretary-General, Jerome Valk, led the delegation on a tour of the city's Arena Pernambuco and later praised the efforts of all those involved in building the stadium, which is now in its final stage of construction ahead of the Confederations Cup in June. There then followed the ceremonial handover of tickets to 4 of the construction workers, 4,600 of whom have been involved in the project. All will receive a ticket to the first of the 5 World Cup games that will be played in the city next year. The following day, the delegation was 1,600 kilometres southwest of Recife, in Belo Horizonte. The city's Estadio Mineirão has undergone major reconstruction in readiness for its use at the FIFA Confederations Cup, and work was completed here in December 2012. The stadium had already hosted 3 matches in the state championship, and with the playing surface looking so inviting, Ronaldo, who used to play his football here for Cruzeiro, Jerome Valk and the other members of the delegation needed little encouragement to try it out for themselves. The 3-day host city tour concluded with a meeting of the LOC Management Board of the 2014 FIFA World Cup in Rio de Janeiro, where it was revealed that ticket sales for the FIFA Confederations Cup have already exceeded 500,000, a new record. It was also decided that smoking will be prohibited at all venues both this year and next. With less than 100 days to go until the start of the Confederations Cup, the hard work continues. Staying on the subject of the FIFA Confederations Cup, 5 different nations have lifted the trophy. 2 hail from South America, 2 from Europe, and the 5th from North America won the tournament on home soil in 1999, Mexico. Interest and expectations will be high when Mexico's national team heads to the FIFA Confederations Cup in June. A young squad it may well be, but many of the players have plenty of tournament experience already and were honoured recently for their part in Mexico's gold medal success at the Olympic Games last year.
I think for us it's extremely important to take part in such an important competition leading up to the World Cup. It's a very strong tournament. It will feature the champions from every confederation. And for us, we will find out what level we are in terms of our football. We too have high expectations when we enter such tournaments. In my opinion, Mexico has been making great strides for some time. And now we need to demonstrate that in a major competition.
In Jose Manuel de la Torre, Mexico has a coach with the Midas touch. A former national team midfielder, El Chepo as is known, steered El Tri to Gold Cup success in 2011 in his first tournament in charge. It was that triumph that earned Mexico the right to contest the Confederations Cup this year.
He's a coach that has improved Mexican football. He's a champion, and he's demonstrated with the national team that he's able to manage an important group of players and that he's ready, mentally, to face any emotional burden. That has made him grow as a person. He's a demanding coach. So whenever we go onto the pitch, we're highly motivated. We go into games wanting to play great football.
Mexico's first outing at the Confederations Cup will be against Italy in Rio at the Maracanã. They'll then head north to Fortaleza to take on the hosts before a final group encounter with Japan in Belo Horizonte.
Italy will be difficult opponents. With Brazil, we faced them in the Olympic final, and the Mexican team fared very well. With Japan, we know about their quality, their ability and their speed. I think Mexico has been drawn in a very difficult group, but the heart and the hunger we have will enable us to fight to the end and allow us to progress to the second round.
Mexico did that and more in 1999 in what was their third appearance in the FIFA Confederations Cup. They won their group and then beat the United States in the semi-finals with a golden goal from Cuauhtémoc Blanco. The defending champions Brazil were their opponents in the final, which was watched by a crowd of 110,000 in the Estadio Azteca. Mexico dominated their opponents on the day, winning a thrilling encounter 4-3, with Blanco again amongst the goals. "14 years later, a repeat performance would be very well received.
For Mexico to be in the Confederations Cup, with the chance of winning it, is very important to everyone. We must give it our full attention before the World Cup. And as time goes by, after the Confederations Cup, we must ensure that we're able to be part of the World Cup in Brazil. That is the main goal of the Mexican team.
Breathtaking views across Guanabara Bay, Sugarloaf Mountain and Christ the Redeemer are just some of the many highlights that Rio has to offer. One of the city's best-kept secrets, though, is a forest, the largest urban forest on Earth.
We're in the middle of the city of Rio de Janeiro. Tijuca Forest is actually part of the Tijuca National Park, which was inaugurated in 1961. It all happened shortly after Rio ceased to be the country's capital. At that point, they decided to create the Tijuca National Park. This forest is very close to the center of Rio, to the original city, the original village of Rio de Janeiro. And this forest provided water to the people. Some rivers that flowed from here supplied the city of Rio de Janeiro. In the 19th century, they tried to create coffee plantations in this part of the city, where today we have the national park. They felled many trees to make way for the plantation, and as they did, they began to notice water shortages down below in the city. In reality, the coffee economy didn't produce good results here. The production wasn't great, so the coffee economy began to move towards Sao Paulo. As a result, this area became abandoned. They began the reforestation process, achieving great results. Today, we have magnificent vegetation. This national park is one of the world's biggest urban parks. It's a forest inside a metropolis. We're in the middle of a metropolis with 10 million inhabitants. The local population of Rio de Janeiro has free access to this area. It's somewhere they can walk or climb a few hills. Inside the forest, we have a few trails that people can access. Trails that take 1 or 2 hours to complete, and which take you to the highest points of the city of Rio de Janeiro. The park gives you the possibility to explore the vegetation, perhaps with the children. In fact, many schools often come here on field trips. Rio de Janeiro offers them the possibility to have field trips inside the city, where they can analyse the plants. And by climbing to the city's highest points, you can also analyse the geography of the city. And all of that, within a wider project, is interesting, because we can link it to biology. All disciplines can be interlinked in one single trip to the Tijuca forest.
Brazil are the undisputed kings of futsal. In Thailand, late last year, the Seleção were crowned world champions for a 5th time. And in the thick of it, as the celebrations got underway, was Falcao, one of the indoor game's great exponents.
For me, my passion has always been futsal. I used to play with a ball in the streets with my friends. And in Brazil, as in many other places around the world, there is always a futsal court in school. So I would take a yogurt to school, eat it, and then I would play by kicking the pot around.
Falcao has been Brazil's star turn for several years now, and he was voted the tournament's best player at each of the last 3 FIFA Futsal World Cups. Now 35, he's one of the country's best-known sportsmen, and such is his talent, back in 2005, he tried his luck at the 11-a-side game with Sao Paulo.
It was good. I think I could have been given more opportunities, and I do believe it could have worked out. But I didn't get enough chances to show what I could do. The opportunities weren't there. In Brazilian futsal, I've always been very well respected. I've always had many individual sponsors due to what I represented within the game. But in football, I was just another player, so I lost many of those sponsors. Then, when I was playing football, they made me a huge offer to come back to futsal. It was good to have tried it. I won the Paulista Championship and the Copa Libertadores, and I returned to futsal as Brazilian champion. So it was a special year. I would go across again, but just as I did back then, I would always come back. I think the way it all happened was perfect.
By the time Brazil hosted the FIFA Futsal World Cup in 2008, Falcao was fully committed to the indoor game. He'd failed to get his hands on the winner's trophy in the 2 previous tournaments, but that would change in front of his adoring public.
It was a very special moment to play a World Cup in our own country. For me in particular, I think it was 99% perfect. Unfortunately, in the final, I got injured at the start of the second half, just as I was playing my best match of the tournament. We won the title after a penalty shootout. It really was very emotional, right to the end. It was perfect.
2012 was a similar story, although penalties were not needed on this occasion to get the better of Spain. Illness restricted Falcao to just 4 appearances for Brazil, but he did score 4 goals, including that effort in the final. And now his tally for the national team is fast approaching 350.
Throughout his career, Falcao has managed to entertain and deliver. The titles he's won make him the great player he is, simply adding to the spectacle. His age is beginning to show, but he remains a player that everybody likes. The fans like him, as does the coach. Sometimes there are players that only the fans or the coach likes, but Falcao manages to unite them both.
With players like Falcao acting as role models, futsal understandably thrives in Brazil. Millions play the game across this vast country, but it's particularly popular in the southern states, in Santa Catarina and Rio Grande do Sul, where the weather can be unpredictable.
The cold weather must mean that parents encourage their children to play futsal because of the rain, the cold and the wind. It does help, I'm sure. In my case, if I lived in the south, I would rather my son played futsal than football.
With 5 games scheduled for Porto Alegre next year, visitors to Rio Grande do Sul could well get a glimpse of futsal. It's fast, it's skillful, and at the end of 40 minutes, Brazil normally wins. Two South American teams will contest this year's FIFA Confederations Cup. There's Brazil, the 3-time winners, plus one of the 10 countries that shares a border with the host nation, Uruguay. Almost 3 years have elapsed since Uruguay's run to the semi-finals of the 2010 FIFA World Cup. Under the guidance of Oscar Tabarez, the Celeste topped their group, then defeated Korea Republic and Ghana, the latter in dramatic fashion, before succumbing to the Netherlands in the last 4. It was a remarkable journey, bettered only by their performance in the Copa America in neighbouring Argentina 12 months later. Buoyed by their World Cup adventure, Uruguay were unbeaten in the group stages before defeating Argentina, Peru and then Paraguay in the final to claim a 15th continental crown.
We are a country with a lot of history, so for Uruguay to be at the top of the world game is something very important. Uruguay has always been blessed with very good players. Occasionally, we didn't perform well because of the way we all thought. Nowadays, though, we have the same ingredients and perhaps something better.
With the likes of Luis Suarez, fellow striker Edinson Cavani and Forlan himself still turning out for the Celeste, Uruguay do indeed boast an exciting and attack-minded squad. And with the FIFA Confederations Cup now on the horizon, the aim is to mix it with the big boys once again.
Every time you compete in an international competition, featuring such important teams, in a continental tournament, a worldwide tournament, and I think the Confederations Cup is within this category, you have the expectation of progressing as far as you can. We will be competing in a tournament that has much importance. It is preparation for the World Cup, and it gives you the opportunity to gauge the quality of some of the teams that might be taking part in that tournament. You can also get to experience the infrastructure that this World Cup will have, and that will give the competition its identity.
Uruguay will kick off their Confederations Cup campaign against Spain in Recife. It's then a relatively short journey to Salvador for a meeting with Nigeria, ahead of a return to Recife and a first-ever fixture against Tahiti.
We know that we'll be facing some great teams. Spain, who are going through a fantastic period right now, winning every major tournament. Their football is enviable, and they're a huge influence on the game right now.
You always want to play against the best teams, and today Spain is the best team in the world. So for Uruguay to play against an opponent with the quality of Spain, with the football that they play, it's something beautiful.
In the unlikely setting of Qatar in February, Uruguay had the chance to inflict a first-ever defeat on Spain in the 9th meeting between the two nations. It was a fixture that was in the calendar before the Confederations Cup draw was made, and both coaches fielded strong teams on a warm evening in Doha. Spain started the stronger, dominating possession and taking the lead, Cesc Fabregas's shot embarrassing the usually reliable Fernando Muslera. Carles Puyol, playing his 100th game, then had a goal ruled out for offside. No complaints from the Spain players, but Uruguay got lucky. And then they got level. Some smart passing and a composed finish. Christian Rodriguez, the scorer. The second half, though, belonged to Spain. They kept the ball for long periods, as they like to do, and Pedro twice breached the Uruguay defence. This, his first, after good work from Gerard Piqué. It finished 3-1 to Spain, but perhaps things will be different in June when the two nations meet in South America. where conditions will presumably favour Uruguay.
I don't think so. I think that every match you play is different, and playing in Europe or South America poses different challenges. But when you contest an important tournament, such as the Confederations Cup, I think everything is fairly even. It's a level playing field. On the pitch, it's just 11 against 11.
Beaten semi-finalists on their only other Confederations Cup appearance in 1997, Uruguay will be a force to be reckoned with in Brazil. A Brazilian's love of football is matched only by his love of music. And at a time when the national team was winning its first World Cup, Bossa Nova was all the rage.
You won't say that you love me, say that you need me, will give me a gun. I know you will defend.
Bossa Nova first appeared in the 1950s. It started when João Gilberto tried to condense the rhythm of samba with his guitar, playing it in a more melancholic way, composing lyrics that talked more about love and nature, in a way that celebrated the beauty of Rio de Janeiro at that time.
Bossa Nova has its roots in Rio de Janeiro's southern zone, where most neighbourhoods have their own beaches. One of the most famous is Ipanema, which has been a source of inspiration for many artists down the years. The Girl from Ipanema was penned and composed in these parts in the 1960s, and the Grammy Award-winning track brought Bossa Nova to a new global audience. Half a century later, a renaissance is in the offing.
I come from a generation that didn't really listen to Bossa Nova. It listened to rock, pop, and other types of music. But today, by bringing back Bossa Nova in a way that's different to Gilberto's concept, I'm attracting a younger audience that also enjoys other styles of music.
Late last year, several enthusiasts celebrated the 50th anniversary of the first ever Bossa Nova concert to be staged outside Brazil. It took place in New York and featured Tom Jobim and João Gilberto. Leading the celebrations half a century on was a man whose knowledge of Bossa Nova's history is second to none.
During the years of difficulty, the middle classes took care of Bossa Nova. They consumed it, and Bossa Nova painted a picture that the system approved of. The Bossa Nova songs talked about beauty, about nature, about love, all of those things that made the people think that everything was okay.
A teacher by trade, Carlos Alberto Afonso has been a lover of Bossa Nova for decades. His record store in Ipanema is a popular meeting point for fellow enthusiasts, and it's here that he's been writing a complete history of Bossa Nova, a tome that will feature a chapter or two on its founding father, Tom Jobim.
There are two sides to Tom Jobim. There's Tom Jobim, the composer. He wrote melodies and is easily the most important composer in the history of Brazilian popular music. Then there's Tom Jobim, the musician, the genial musician. It was this Tom Jobim who we identify as being the architect of Bossa Nova. Because Bossa Nova is, above all, the music of musicians.
And one such musician is Alessandro Vanzella, whose indie Bossa Nova has given the genre a modern feel. It's a move that has met with the approval of the legendary Roberto Menescal, who often plays alongside Vanzella in Rio's many music venues.
I hope that my brand of Bossa Nova will be as famous as that of João Gilberto or Tom Jobim, or as the poems of Vinicius. Obviously, they are legends, and I'm not getting above myself just yet. But I do hope that, with time, the public will be able to identify with me when they hear indie bossa, this blend of indie rock that I'm bringing to Bossa Nova.
O que eu estou trazendo de novidade para Bossa Nova.
Next time, we return to the roots of a living legend as we visit the house where Pelé was born. We head back to Rio to ride the Bondinho, one of the city's most popular tourist attractions. And we'll assess the prospects of Italy as we continue our countdown to the Confederations Cup. Until then, goodbye.